Dana White has stooped to new lows to promote powerslap.
I like my suitcase.
He's resorted to using OnlyFans models.
This little badass is giving away a $200,000 car.
But whenever he speaks about powerslap, he claims it's literally the most popular sport in the world.
Take every sport on earth, combine all their numbers together, and multiply it by 4. Powerslap beats it.
He even thinks that one day it'll be bigger than the UFC. Yet it's been dropped by its TV broadcaster, accused of faking views, and it's always surrounded in controversy.
They're trading brain cells for cash.
It's clear that Dana is lying about powerslap's success, because if he wasn't, he wouldn't need to do bizarre marketing stunts like this. So just how did powerslap get to this point, and why is Dana White getting so desperate? Originally, Dana White claimed to have spotted underground slap fighting contests online with millions of views.
I started to do some research on some of the companies and some of the promoters that were involved in it. And, you know, I was first of all, I was blown away by the numbers. I mean, some of these have like 300 million views. So I started thinking, you know, obviously this thing really works for social media, but I thought it would be good for television too if done the right way.
And it was his belief that with a rule set, the proper finances, and the power of the UFC marketing team behind it, they could turn it into a global phenomenon. So much like he did with the UFC, Dana White created a reality show that very much looked and felt like the ultimate fighter.
Out of all the competitions that we've held over the last however many years, this is probably the nicest house we've ever had.
But ironically, the show was temporarily postponed after Dana White landed himself in a lot of personal trouble for slapping his wife.
It was obviously a horrible personal experience, and you know, there's no excuses for it. Something that I'm gonna have to deal with and live with for the rest of my life.
Regardless, powerslap had a deal with American cable network TBS. Although when the show did end up airing and the world was exposed to powerslap for the first time, they were shocked at what they were witnessing.
I don't mind saying this has to be the most stupid sport in the world.
It was just two athletes, if you could call them that, standing face to face and slapping each other until one of them couldn't take it anymore. Sure, there were a few rules, some judges, and a bizarre scoring system, but at the end of the day, it was just pure violence.
I just saw it with these two gals. They look perfectly nice. They look like they had no beef with each other. And they're up there slapping. Why would you ever let an opponent hit you? How do you ever not bring a hand up? How do you not do the pull? How do you not slip underneath? Where's the honor in that? It makes no kind of sense. And I'm okay with weird activities. People jump out of airplanes. People ride bulls and act like they achieve something. People do weird stuff all the time. I'm not against that. I'm against them using the name of our sport, fighting. You gotta call it something else.
Immediately, the MMA purists hated it, but there was a contingent out there who enjoyed the spectacle.
The people competing on slap for who they are. You know, they've all got backstories. Some of them are more interesting than others. Some of them have made some mistakes in their lives and they're trying to get their lives on track.
Reportedly, the show is pulling in around 250,000 viewers a week. And while that may seem like a lot, those numbers are actually quite underwhelming. So at the end of their first season, powerslap was dropped by TBS. It was partly due to the low ratings, although a big reason they lost their TV deal was the ever-growing controversy that surrounded this so-called sport. And on the topic of losses, our friends over at Late Night Fights do incredible deep dives into all the losses of MMA's most successful, controversial, and popular stars. They've only been on YouTube for a couple of months, but already have a great library of videos to binge. So if you're interested in those times where the best UFC fighters struggled, head to Late Night Fights on YouTube, link in the description. With powerslap, the most glaring issue people have is the head trauma.
What are we doing here?
I know.
It's free brain damage. Like, why? You could hit someone so hard with a slap because you're not. Everybody thinks of a slap as like the palm in the face. That is not what's happening. You're getting palm striked in the face.
Yeah.
Full blast.
Terrible.
From a full swing.
In a time where we've only recently learned the extent of how terrible repeated blows to the head are, powerslap is literally that. Striking each other in the face with zero defense whatsoever.
What may not surprise you is that actually a lot of the medical boards that are involved in combat sports are upset. They did not think that the Nevada State Athletic Commission should approve this. Some of the biggest names in combat sports fighting in terms of fighter health, trying to promote awareness about brain injuries, were very, very strongly against this getting approved because, again, in their mind, like I'm saying here, this is just trading concussive blow for concussive blow.
One of the biggest things researchers have learned about concussions is that it's often the blows you take after a concussion that are most dangerous. And Power Slap has a lot of those.
If somebody goes down and suffers a concussion, what's to keep them from getting right back up and maybe having a second impact that could cause a concussion and second impact syndrome, which can be life-threatening.
And because of all the uproar, Power Slap can legally only take place in a handful of locations. Up until now, they've only ever held events in the notoriously liberal Nevada and the Middle East. But the former head of the Nevada State Athletic Commission that sanctioned Power Slap now actually regrets his decision. A former US congressman even wrote to Warner Bros., the parent company of TBS, pleading with them to remove Power Slap from cable television. Yet Dana White just believes Power Slap is in the same position that the UFC was 20 years ago when Senator John McCain called it human cockfighting.
These are all the same questions people ask me about UFC in the old days. Oh my God, this is garbage. You jump on top of another guy, you can do this, you can do that. It's human cockfighting. Now this, because as soon as money gets involved,
right,
and you can actually start to make a living doing this,
right,
people start taking it serious, and people start. So when athletes come in to slap, we put them through the Performance Institute, and they go through the same type of training. We measure them for force, velocity, speed, and people are actually starting to train and take this thing serious because there's real money involved now.
Power Slap is worlds apart from MMA, however. It's actually anti-martial arts. Instead of mastering numerous techniques and combat styles that originated from all around the world, Power Slap is simply swinging for the breachers and hoping you switch your opponent's brain off. And isn't there a huge advantage for whoever wins the coin toss and goes first? You essentially just have one free shot at victory while you're 100% fresh and haven't taken any damage yourself. Even some UFC fighters, the people who have their checks written by Dana White, are publicly criticizing Power Slap.
A free shot with Chinskis. Yeah. I don't know. I cannot watch it. I don't know if it's I can't watch it because I understand what concussions are. I understand. I've been through them. I know how bad it is to do that to your brain.
And while there are fighters who support Power Slap, there's a strong chance they feel pressured to do so. But regular fans are free to say whatever they want, and more often than not, if you head into the comment section of any Power Slap video, particularly the early ones, the responses were overwhelmingly negative. Yet despite all this hate Dana White and Power Slap has been receiving, he's continued on with new seasons of the reality show elsewhere. And whenever he speaks about it, he makes Power Slap sound like the world's most popular sport.
It's bigger than the PGA, NASCAR. We're crushing it. We're about to pass Major League Baseball as far as numbers go, right?
Wow.
Then, now, when you talk about numbers on views on this thing, take every sport on earth, combine all their numbers together, and multiply it by 4. Power Slap beats it.
So just how can it have such an audience if everyone supposedly hates it? Well, one explanation is that Dana is misleading us with his stats because not all views are created equally. For example, one view on a 5-second Power Slap knockout clip on TikTok isn't the same as someone watching a 30-minute NFL breakdown on YouTube. And that's where the vast majority of these hundreds of millions of views are coming from: Insta Reels, Twitter, and TikTok. People aren't actually watching the Power Slap events, they're just watching a clip on their TikTok feed that's a handful of seconds long.
Oh, well, Twitter counts a view as someone scrolling over it for a second. I was like, that's not a view. Tell me how many people actually watched. Tell me how many people watched for 2 minutes, for 3 minutes, for 4 minutes, for 5 minutes.
The UFC brand has exceptional marketing, so combining that with clips of people getting slapped and knocked out cold is guaranteed to print views. But Dana is using that to tell us more people are interested in Power Slap than the NFL, NBA, soccer, and every other sport in the world combined. It's just quite clearly a lie.
Better than the NFL, the NBA, the NHL, Major League Baseball, F1, WWE, and I'm sure because he says what else, there's soccer, throw them all in, to imply that Slap's social numbers are bigger than all of them combined, Frankie, combined. He didn't just say we're bigger than this entity and that entity. He's putting them all in one bucket and saying, and so my question is, does he actually believe this nonsense? Or is this just brilliant promotion? Because here we are talking about it.
Because if it wasn't, their deal with TBS would have been renewed. We'd know the names of all the champions, and they'd have so much cash they'd be able to pay the competitors more than the tiny amount they currently receive.
It's CTE for money. Like they're trading brain cells for cash. And they're only offering you a couple of $1,000s to do it anyway. It's not like it's going to change your life. I mean, it changed your life for the negative, of course.
Dana claims the top earners in powerslap can make around $45,000 in an evening, but even if that's true, it's not the case for everyone. Eric Spicely, a former TUF contestant who had 7 fights in the UFC, was offered to compete on powerslap, and according to him, he was offered $2,000 to show and $2,000 to win. Powerslap clearly doesn't have the means to give their fighters competitive pay. If they're pulling hundreds of millions of views, yet paying the people involved just $2,000 to risk their livelihoods, something isn't right. Fans are claiming it's the lack of true viewership being the reason why Dana White has gotten so desperate in his marketing tactics, because he's recently stooped to an all-time low.
That's why I'm giving away this McLaren 600 LT at powerslap for free. Check out the links in our bios on how to enter.
In a series of videos on both his social media and hers, Dana White teamed up with an OnlyFans star to market both powerslap and her videos through giving away a McLaren.
She paid $200,000 for this car at Vegas Auto Gallery, and she's giving it to you for free. The way you enter is go to powerslap.com/giveaway. And you can watch Powerslap live and free on Rumble this Friday night, and there will be a code that will pop up. It'll give you 10 extra entries.
The entire MMA world was instantly calling out Dana, claiming he must be desperate for powerslap to succeed if he's willing to do this. If you're trying to build a legitimate sport, one to rival the likes of basketball and football, collaborating with sex workers seems to undermine that aim. There's claims that Dana has spoken so highly of powerslaps and its success in recent times that his ego can't accept the fact it might not be as big as he believes. Because the UFC's shoving powerslap in our faces. It doesn't matter whether it's Dana's Twitter, the homepage of UFC Fight Pass, or even the official UFC social media pages. MMA fans are being forced to hear about powerslap.
The problem is they combined it and started promoting it on the UFC channel. Yeah. And then that's when you piss me off. I'm like, no, don't confuse the public here. Separate them.
Well, they got Bisping doing commentary for it.
I feel like I would do it. Like when I found out Bisping's doing it, I'm like, yeah, get your money, dog.
But it still isn't this global super sport Dana wants it to be. And while Dana White is the type of person to prove everyone wrong, I don't think this OnlyFans collaboration is going to help move the needle.